Hey, what's up, Ramley? What is up, Los Angeles? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network, your destination for Los Angeles football. I'm your co-host, Ryan Dyer, joined as always by the main man, Mr. Ryan Skinny T. Anderson. Busy couple weeks with the draft. We are now past the draft into the true offseason. We got some mini camps and OTAs coming up. So I guess technically we got a few more weeks of like some things going on. The schedule's coming out in a couple days. So I guess it's not till really June when we're truly absolutely nothing's going on, but it's still very few and far between. So we're coming up with topics for you guys. We have some fun stuff to discuss today, but first and foremost, Skinny T, what's up, brother? How we doing?
Doing fantastic, man. Great day to be back talking more Rams football with you, as always. Always a great day to join my good friend, Ryan Dyrud.
Good friend. Always good friend. Love that. So, but yeah, beautiful day here in Los Angeles. Weird. I feel like we always got to open the show talking weather. We seem to do that often. At least I do. I bring it up, but
I've turned fully into a Californian because I was cold yesterday and it was 70 degrees. I was trying to warm up. I was sitting in my backyard. I had to sit directly in the sunlight to reach the body temperature that I prefer, apparently. I'm born in Minnesota, raised in the Midwest. It's all gone. I just have that thin California blood now. And I don't mind.
I've been trying to figure out what year that happens, because mine's been long gone. I've been here now for almost close to 20 years now in LA. But when I moved here from Colorado in college to go to Long Beach State, I remember all through college, like it could be winter, midnight, and I was in like t-shirts. It felt great. It got a little cold here and there, but it felt great. Now, like you said, it could be 75 and I'm like, it's hoodie weather. 75 and sunny, and I'm still rocking a hoodie because I'm like, it's a little brisk outside.
Yeah. My family's very disappointed in me, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I go home and it's or go to my parents' place and it feels freezing. So, but I enjoy the cold still because we don't get it very often. So it's nice to break it up and have that. But yes, weird weather weekend over the weekend. It's now beautiful and sunny again. Looks like we're getting close to kind of that. We're definitely in spring, getting close to that summer weather here. And so that means we're going to talk Rams like training camp. Basically, that's what summer means, right? Is Ram training camp. So we're not there yet. We got a ways, but we want to talk way too early roster bubble spot. So who are the players that are kind of on that bubble, on that fringe, that have the most to prove to make this roster? Because you look at the draft class, obviously we talked about a lot last week. You look at these UDFAs, a lot of excitement. I mean, I was pumped to see how pumped fans were about some of these guys. You look at Spates, you look at a lot of these other players. The fans are pretty pumped about this UDFA class. So they're going to be pushing the fringe bubble guys. So I want to get into that and have some fun with it. So show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. I've been playing around, Skinny T, with the NHL and NBA finals. I haven't done too hot. Hopefully I can turn my that streak around tonight. My Avalanche play, finally, after being off for what feels like a month, game 1 against the Dallas Stars in round 2. No more LA teams to bet on, unfortunately. Dodgers, obviously, if you're into baseball, Dodgers are killing it. You're a big baseball fan. Your Twins are doing well, aren't they?
Yeah, they went on an 11-game heater and got themselves into second place. So hopefully that's the trend that continues. Yeah.
All right, let's root for a Dodgers-Twins World Series. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, man, that would be so much fun to watch the Twins lose to the Dodgers in the World Series.
Yes, but yeah, Dodgers are obviously looking like the real deal, hopefully after spending what they spent. But you can do all of that betting on betonline.ag. Tell them the guys over at the Rams Skinny sent you. I don't know if Super Bowl odds are up yet. Maybe I'll look while you're talking next. I'm curious what the Rams are at for Super Bowl odds. I actually put a bet down on USC to win the national championship. They were plus 5,000 to win the Natty when I got them. And I know they're not the favorite, but plus 5,000. I mean, I think they're going to be, in my opinion. I mean, we cover SC obviously here at the LA Football Network. I cover them extensively for our So Detroit podcast, and I think SC is going to surprise some people. But
they don't know what we know, which is they have Eric Henderson on their coaching staff now.
That's right.
That defense is going to go from worst to first. They got it right.
Oh, I mean, worst to 70th, I'll take if they can get worst to first.
That's probably more the realistic SC take there.
Yeah.
But I've written a few, at least one article on the Rams Super Bowl chances, and I just can't remember what the number is right now. But it was a bit low. It was a bit slanderous. I felt like.
Let's
You have
see
that
here.
pulled up?
I'm looking. Okay, so yeah, Super Bowl winner. The Rams are plus 2,800 right now, which is basically middle of the little, top third. Who do you think the favorite is?
Niners.
Shocking. Chiefs are actually the favorite. Niners
Oh,
are
there.
second.
Okay.
Yeah, Chiefs plus 500, Niners plus 65. I'll rattle them really quick. You got Ravens, Texans, Bengals, Eagles, Lions, Bills, Cowboys, Packers, Jets, Falcons, and Rams.
Falcons
So,
higher percentage for getting there. That's rough.
yeah, well, they're technically both 2,800, so they're
Okay.
even. They just had they had the Falcons listed first.
Sure.
But if you go, I think what you wrote on was team wins, and this is what I agree with you. This is an easier bet, in my opinion. So the Rams are set on betonline.ag at 8.5.
Oh yeah,
Over
that's what it was.
under 8.5. Winning 10 games last year. So is that just the Aaron Donald effect?
It must be. I don't know.
Game and a half worse?
You got to assume with this offensive line and Sean McVay running the ball more, with this stable of running backs, the offense is going to be really good. I still have question marks about the defense for sure, but I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way you improve after losing Aaron Donald, but they've added a lot of great pieces. So 8.5. I mean, I'm taking the over on that one.
I am too. As of right now, I'm definitely taking the over on that. I can't see them as a 2-win less team compared to last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Donald. So here's honestly the biggest question. This will lead into our bubble player talk. I think everyone knows how big of a loss Aaron Donald is. I mean, not maybe it's hard to quantify if we're doing like baseball WAR statistics, but I think everyone knows that it's a huge loss. And yeah, drafting Fisk, these are all the right moves, the right decisions. Tough to fill, but that's what you have to do. You got to move on. The one I think that's even more unquantifiable and that we will see is the loss of, as you alluded to earlier, Coach Eric Henderson. How big of a loss will that be? Because Aaron Donald's greatness, let's say 80% was just Aaron Donald being a freak of nature, his work ethic, his leadership, all that. But there was still coaching, and he alluded to in his retirement a lot of what Coach Henny meant to him and how much he helped in his progression. Then you take away Aaron Donald, and you look at the rest of the guys in that defensive line and how they were able to, obviously Kobe Turner in his progression in 1 year, and so will Gift Smith have enough of an effect on A, continuing Kobe Turner's development, but B, you might not be as involved with Verse. We'll have some carryover with Verse, but for sure with Braden Fisk at the defensive interior, how involved will he be? And I think Gift Smith did some good things with the Chargers where he came from. I don't think it was at the level of Coach Henny. So that's, I think, the bigger, is that a 2-win drop off just from that coaching change? Well, and then not to mention Raheem Morris. And I mean, there's a lot of changes. I still would take the over at 8.5, but you could talk yourself into being like, oh man, it's going to be a tougher battle than people think.
Yeah, we're gonna learn a lot through the offseason as to what this defense is really gonna look like. New defensive coordinator Chris Shula in there now. Like you said, Gift Smith, another new face in there. I mean, the Chargers are hard to quantify exactly what went wrong last year because everything seemed to go wrong
They're
for
a
them
bad
last
case
year.
study.
So yeah, there's just a lot of unknowns on the defensive side. So yeah, I think all new coaches and a lot of new players. And so lot for the defensive coaching staff to prove heading into the season.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm excited. I mean, I remember when we talked to Cam Lynch, who we're going to get back on the show. We talked about Radio Row, and he was pumped about Chris Shula, just saying, I think he was a great hire and how he's a guy that's just worked his way up. He went the organization, does it all. I mean, what did he compare him to? Like, it's like the janitor, but he also is like the genius. Like,
Yeah,
does it all.
something like that.
So, I'm excited to see. We just don't know. You just don't know, right? So, but yeah, still taking the over. So betonline.ag, that was a very nice analytical promo read there. All right, bubble players. Who I'll throw it to you first. Who there's some obvious ones, some very obvious ones, and then maybe some other ones that might be a little surprising that we'll get into. But I'll toss it to you first. Who is one bubble player that you're really looking at right now to start with?
So it's one or maybe three, I guess. I'm gonna lump them all together here and talk about the guys that are no longer on the contract, the wide receivers that are no longer on contract after 2024. It's Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek. I think Demarcus Robinson's place on this team is solidified. Going into the playoffs, the last few weeks of the season, going into the playoff game against Detroit, I think he proved that they want him again. They signed him to another 1-year contract. But Ben Skoranek and Tutu Atwell, what do their roles look like on this team? Ben Skoranek found a nice spot for him in special teams, but that's not going to guarantee another contract. And then Tutu Atwell just hasn't found a spot for himself on this team. So what does it look like for him this season? Is he a trade candidate? Are they going to be calling up Mike McDaniels, who just loves speedy guys and knows what to do with them and knows how to use them a bit better? So those are just kind of the first ones that pop up to me, just because they're on that last year of their deals. And other than Demarcus Robinson, those Ben Skoranek and Tutu Atwell, I just don't know where they fit in on this team. I'm not saying they're getting cut necessarily, but they're on a bubble of some sort for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think those were the obvious ones. Like, they have the most to gain and also the most to lose. Like, they're guys, and we talked about specifically Tutu heading into last year. Like, this was kind of his going into year 3, his true, like, what is he going to be in the NFL? It's kind of like for a lot of receivers, not everyone's Justin Jefferson and that just like blow up year 1, Puka Nacua, blow up year 1. Like, some of them take a little time to get into it. And usually year 3 is that where you see those other receivers kind of then take their next step. And he seemed to do it in the beginning of the season and then just really tapered off. And part of that was schematically, they got Demarcus Robinson a lot more involved, as you mentioned. So it wasn't necessarily all his fault, but that plays in your point. Like, what is he in this offense? I hate that thumbs up thing. I don't understand why it does that for all of you watching on YouTube. That thumbs up emoji, I don't get it. I was just itching my arm, but anyway. So what is his role actually in this offense, and what does it look like? And when you look at, they didn't draft anyone until the 6th round in Jordan Whittington, but adding 3 undrafted free agents, which they'll have an uphill climb obviously to make it, but then also Tyler Johnson, who's been around the team for a little while now, Xavier Smith. It's just interesting to see where they fit. And Ben Skoranek in that same boat. We said last year, he was kind of a fan favorite, and we said we thought he was a cut candidate. And I think we got maybe some backlash. I don't know. And he obviously made it great. But we saw his role diminished severely from, his earlier tenure with the Rams till now, just because, and I still agree with this, like, it's great to be a jack of all trades until you're not good enough to be in those roles anymore. Like, when you're a master at something, like, it's hard to replace you because, like, no one else can do what you do as good as you do. When you're a jack of all trades and you're a team that is lacking talent, then you can fit anywhere, which is nice to have that versatility and availability. But once you've built out your talent pool at those other spots, and now you're not the best fullback anymore, not the best tight end anymore, and clearly not the best wide receiver anymore, it's like, well, what good are you? And that sounds really harsh to say, but before it was like, well, we didn't have a fullback, so cool, you can play some fullback. Tight ends were banged up, great, you can play in line and do some tight end stuff. So what I'm just saying is, like, if he's not excelling at any of those 3 spots, and now there's players that are better than him at those 3, he's a true bubble player, because you have to be able to beat someone out at something, or you're just a body. It's harsh to say. He's a great special teamer. That's where he's going to find his, I think, identity to be able to stay with the squad. But truly, and I'm not, again, none of us are saying these guys are going to be cut, but truly a fascinating bubble player.
Yeah, you're looking at 53 players. You're looking at 6 to 7 wide receivers generally is what they keep on. And, I keep thinking about Puka Nacua in relationship to these other players, Tutu Atwell and Ben Skoranek specifically, just because nobody expected, including the Rams, for his ascent to be so dominant and distinct, for him to rise to the level of a record-setting rookie season for a 5th rounder is just incredible.
Yeah.
So, it totally changed the calculus of who they're going to have on the roster. So,
Real quick
yeah.
on Puka, because I'm glad you brought him up. Someone, I can't remember if this is a comment on one of our last videos or on Twitter that I saw, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while. And I want to be very clear here. I'm not at all taking away from anything from Puka Nacua. I'm not at all saying he was underdrafted and should have been higher drafted in his talent level. So I'm not saying any of that. But this comment of this listener, and it's something that I've been thinking about, is Matthew Stafford has shown over his career he has a trend of really keying in on one player. And we've talked about it before. Like, that is, the offense is solely kind of, he keys in on one guy, and he'll sprinkle around. But that was the whole problem when Cooper Kupp triple crown year, is they couldn't get Bobby Trees involved right before he got hurt. It was like, well, Bobby Trees is a great receiver, and he's just not getting the ball at all. Cooper Kupp, it's great. He's having 15 receptions, 19 targets, but at some point, is that sustainable? Now, it was for that season, and Cooper Kupp, obviously Triple Crown winner, had a great year. But we saw that again last year where Puka Nacua, it was just, his target share was unbelievable. He smashed the league in terms of just targets. And so I'm wondering what his production will look like with a healthy Cooper Kupp fully back. Like, are we seeing, how do I ask this? Is this an offense where we can see two receivers have dynamic, dominant seasons? Or is it always going to kind of be one guy way above the rest and everyone else is kind of doing the dirty work here and there?
We haven't seen it, really, the Stafford version of this offense, where he's kind of spread it around and played some backyard football a little bit with more than one receiver. So unfortunately, the thing about usage, and especially when you're talking about guys like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, going across the middle of the field a lot. You don't see them a lot, just getting gently pushed out of bounds. They're fighting for extra yards, and they're going across the middle of the field where they're getting hit a lot. So that kind of usage in that kind of play style gets guys hurt, unfortunately. And, Puka came in a bit injury prone, proved to be healthy, a little bit dinged up here and there, but it just changes. I don't know. We have that's where I come down, because we just haven't seen it, and
yeah.
So,
well, and the other coin
ahead.
of that too is in Sean McVay scheming guys to be in that role, right? And so, I think it's pretty factual. Again, it's worked out, and I'm not taking anything away, but it's pretty factual that Stafford keys in on a receiver, and that's where he goes. But a lot of times those are by design, right? Like, that's the first option. If they're open, why wouldn't you take that first option? Like, if Puka Nacua is your first read every time, and he's open every time, you're taking your first read. And so if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, no need to change it. But for guys like Tutu, for guys like Skoranek, it's also going to take more than just them. It's going to take McVay scheming things to where they're the number one option. If it's a go route and that's all Tutu can do, well, it's like, it's got to be he's the first look every time, or else we know the ball is going to Kupp or Nacua. So, that's the game within the game. And unfortunately for receivers, you're contingent on so many other factors in order to be dominant. Because, for as great as Puka Nacua is, like, he could have gone to a team like the Broncos or have a terrible passing attack, and he would be wide receiver 4 and no one would have ever heard of him. So,
Right.
It's really contingent, unfortunately, on not just the quarterback, but on the play design and the scheme of what you are within the progression in order to get the ball your way. So, all I have to say is Tutu and Skoranek are certainly bubble players, and it'll be interesting to see how they play out. And, it's May, so we'll see. A long time to dissect where they actually do stand.
Well, and you look at Jordan Whittington, rookie draft pick out of the 6th round, he is kind of that special teams guy that they could use. Gritty player, really fantastic blocker. So they're obviously creating a succession plan for the guys on their last year of their rookie deal. And schematically, with wide receivers, they keep the same 3 guys on in their 11 personnel a lot. Yeah. So kind of the Rams don't have those like very gadgety they don't have room for the gadgety specialty players in the new version of this offense, the newest version of this offense, which we'll talk about more once we get to some of these running backs. But it's so seismically changed over the last couple of years, out of necessity, that it's almost like they've been drafted too long ago to be what this new team is looking for in a way.
Yeah, exactly. They've shifted out of that in a way. So, all right, who you got? Who you got next? If you want to stay on
You're up.
offense or
You're
jump to
up.
defense. Oh, I'm up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Who do I want to? I prepared a little earlier, but now I'm maybe going off the cuff here. Let's go with. Okay, I'm gonna go with. You mentioned running back, and I'm gonna go with running backs, and I'm gonna go with Zach Evans, and just drafted a year ago, so only a second year player. But you figure, obviously, we know Kyren Williams is the guy. Blake Corum, they just drafted in the third round. He's clearly not going anywhere. And they went out and got, and Ronnie Rivers, who was RB2 all of last year when healthy, because he's like kind of a little bit of a change of pace, speedy guy. And they brought in Boston Scott. So Zach Evans is the odd man out. Now, the other way to look at this is Ronnie Rivers, because Boston Scott to me is more like a Ronnie Rivers type back. So maybe they thought Ronnie Rivers and Boston Scott will kind of duke it out for that RB4 spot or that fourth running back. Zach Evans is enough of a stronger, kind of hard-nosed lunch pail back that they think he brings a little bit of a difference than both Corum and Williams. But at the same time, like if they like what Ronnie does, and we saw them draft the same type of player as Kyren Williams, so maybe they see that as RB1A, RB1B, and maybe they see Ronnie Rivers and Boston Scott as RBBA and B, RB2B, 2A and 2B, if I can speak. And Zach Evans maybe just doesn't fit the philosophy anymore. So we'll have to see more once mini camps and OTAs and how we see. But Zach Evans really wasn't able to get on the field much last year. Obviously a rookie, but they've given rookies reps. So I feel like as it stands right now, he's probably more on the bubble, but it just depends on that running back philosophy.
Yeah, this is a kind of a mystery one to me, especially because they added Boston Scott kind of out of nowhere. Yeah. And he fits the Kyren Williams, Blake Corum size, skill set profile specifically. All guys that are about our height, which I always like to mention, 5'8" guys, 5'7", 8 guys, they can play football.
Yeah.
And Blake Corum is a perfect fit for this offense for where they're going now, moving away from the zone, inside and outside zone runs to the gap scheme stuff. That's what Michigan did. So I absolutely agree with you, Ryan, that 1A, 1B, that's what they're looking at for Blake Corum and Kyren Williams. So the rest of these guys, I think they're all on the bubble. The Boston Scott one is the most curious to me. You probably have to go back and look at other depth charts to see if they've ever had this many running backs that they could possibly keep on the roster, and they're going to need more than two backs. I could see them keeping 3 or 4 through the season, just because everything that they're pointing toward doing this season is running the ball a lot more. Running between the tackles a lot more. We saw Kyren Williams' great success, 3 yards before contact last year. Now they go ahead and add another, huge offensive lineman, Jonah Jackson. Mm-hmm. And, that spells, yards before contact. That 3 yards before contact was one of the best, the second best behind Chris McCaffrey by 0.1 yard. So this offensive line was doing great things for Kyren Williams, and Blake Corum is going to be able to take advantage of that as well. So I'm really curious to see. I don't want to pin it on anybody yet. Zach Evans is just in his second year on a rookie contract. If he doesn't make it, he'll end up on the practice squad, I'm sure. We didn't really talk about it much with the wide receivers, but there is the McVay like pedestal versus doghouse thing, where it takes a while. If a guy ends up on the pedestal, he's going to keep him there, and if he ends up in the doghouse, he's got to earn his way out.
Just an easy to do, we've seen.
Yeah, for sure, especially for the running backs. He does not have patience for running backs whatsoever.
No.
I mean, sent Cam Akers packing. Probably a year too late, to be honest,
Yeah.
considering the big shift that they made in the running game. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, last in, first out. Maybe Boston Scott's the guy I would say is truly on the bubble there,
Mhm.
because we haven't seen him at all. But yeah, definitely a good one to point out. And that's gonna be a fascinating battle. I'm excited to see who comes out on top on that. Because
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the more dynamic. I mean, obviously Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are going to be dynamic, but this is where this offense is going to be. Uh, you know, it's up to McVay. We talking about things what we haven't seen. It's McVay consistently sticking to the running game. So I don't want to
Yeah.
get the cart before the horse because it is just early May at
Yeah.
that. But yeah.
Indications are that he will, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, they'll definitely keep 3 on, maybe 4 if they feel Rivers or Scott or Evans gives them a lot of great special teams versatility. And if that is the philosophy, they're just going to run the ball 30 times a game. But definitely, they're not keeping 5. So definitely one of those guys is on the bubble there. And it won't be Williams or Corum, obviously. So, all right, your next one.
Yeah.
We'll do 2 or 3 more.
Okay. So I'm going to hop over to the defensive side and let's talk about Bobby Brown. I mean,
Ooh, BB.
a,
Okay.
a guy that's never really been able to consistently stay on the field.
Yeah.
Played a little bit here and there. They've obviously invested a lot on the defensive line. Both Braden Fisk, Tyler Davis joining the team. 2 rookies and a second year Kobe Turner. Doesn't fill me with a ton of confidence at this point. But I don't know. What are your thoughts there? Is Bobby Brown last year of his rookie deal, like Tutu Atwell, like Ben Skoranek. Obviously getting rid of a guy on a rookie deal isn't advisable, but we did see them do that. They traded away Van Jefferson and Cam Akers last season. So,
Yeah.
But obviously this is a huge area of interest along the defensive line, as we've already talked about with Aaron Donald off of this, and I was thinking about it, a lot of criticism for trading up to get Braden Fisk, involving a second a second round pick in 2025. A lot of criticism for that, but you go back and you think about how much they didn't have to invest in their offensive line or their defensive line while they had Aaron Donald. They were able to get by with Greg Gaines, who's a 4th round pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Able to get by with Ashawn Robinson. Not having to get just a completely dominant defensive line. So just again, I'm just curious. The depth there is just pretty suspect.
Yeah. No, for sure. This is a great one because Bobby Brown, since they drafted him out of A&M, I've the prospect of his potential has been so high. And I know I like to throw this out there, but why not? Yeah, I remember texting Coach Henne after the pick, and he was thrilled about it. Said he had Aaron Donald traits, and they thought they could really, nurture him into being one of the next great D linemen. And it just hasn't happened. He's had some injury history. Whether it's, I never like to assume things that we don't know, but who knows if it's, maybe not the sharpened work ethic or whatever it may be. I don't want to put that out there if it's not true, but for whatever reason, it hasn't happened yet. And part of it has been injuries. He has been a little banged up, but going into year 4, the size is there, right? 6'4", 325. The talent's there, the pedigree's there. It's all there. We just haven't seen it. And so I think he certainly, it's not unfair to say he's a bubble player, because what has he shown that he's going to not only start, but be an actual dependable role player or backup, because he just hasn't been thus far, unfortunately. As much as I love it and as much as I believe he has the ability and the talent level to do it, we haven't seen it yet. So I hope he bucks that and can be the guy. I know all the offseason depth charts have him slated as the starting nose. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if Fisk can be the true starting nose. I mean, a little lighter, 300 versus 325, but 6'5", he's an inch taller. The Rams have never really had a nose tackle that tall when you think of like Gray Gaines and Joseph Day, and not short guys, but definitely, your more classic, stockier, shorter noses, and you get a 6'5" Braden Fisk, Bobby Brown's 6'4". So, I mean, those are a lot of optionality and talent that they could have at that position next to Kobe Turner. And then, I could see them a lot of times sliding Jared Verse inline a little more. I know he's drafted as like an edge, but his style of play, his strength, his bull rush ability versus speed and bendability sometimes may suit them better actually more as a 3 tech than as the outside 5'6", 7 tech, or 5'7" tech, excuse me. So, or like a true 9 tech way outside. So, I think they have options. And I think because of that, Bobby Brown is a true bubble player, not because of talent, not because of need, but because of just, he hasn't yet proven, worth being in that spot when they have all these hungry guys trying to move up. So I hope it's different, because of all the guys on the roster before the draft this year, he by far has the highest ceiling besides Kobe Turner. But when you look at the other defensive linemen, he's got the highest ceiling, but we haven't seen it yet. So got to see it. Otherwise he's truly on the fringe.
Yeah. What's really frustrating about Bobby Brown is he has flashed it.
Yeah.
We've seen it at times, and especially defensive line, you have to be a consistent player. I mean, they have a ton of responsibility when you think about rushing the passer, fitting the gaps, staying, gap sound, and he's done those things sporadically, but there's a reason that he didn't make the roster. And going back to our conversation about Gift Smith, he's doing it without Eric Henderson. Maybe that's a good shift for him. Maybe he needs a different voice in his ear. Maybe he was in a doghouse and wasn't being given the opportunities. But going back, it's like looking at the depth that they currently have.
Yeah.
It's hard to see a replacement unless Tyler Davis is just insane, or Jared Verse is kind of more that defensive end than an outside linebacker, which is his strength.
Yeah.
What does he look like in coverage? We don't really know exactly. So yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts on the defensive line there. I mean, Anthony Goodlow, I wrote about him, talked about him, but he's a UDFA, so it's hard to see him moving up into that starting role just right off the bat. But I don't love it.
Yeah, and they obviously like Laurel Murchison, and they re-signed him in the offseason. So, rooting for Bobby, because I think if he can reach his potential, that's the best case scenario. But until we see it, he is a bubble player for now. And that's kind of the, I don't know if beauty is the right word, because fans want to, and the organization wants to know, like, these are the guys we can count on. But that's kind of the fun, enticing thing of this offseason is, like, it's a complete, outside of probably Turner and Young, that front set, or when you look at the front 7, you got Turner, Byron Young, and Ernest Jones. Outside of those 3, it's pretty much open competition for all spots, I would say. So it makes it fun, but it's also a little unnerving knowing, like, we don't know exactly what to expect. So, all right, I'll jump back to offense, and you can finish us out with whatever position you want. So I'm going to talk tight end. Now, player-wise, they have 7 currently on the roster. And I'm going to talk Hunter Long, I think, is probably your bubble player here. When you look at Tyler Higbee, and for whatever he's been, he is the starter. Colby Parkinson, it'd be really hard to see them just giving him a pretty lucrative tight end contract. Now, he's not a huge threat in the passing game, but clearly they want to run the football, and he gives you a lot of good stuff in the running game in terms of blocking. Davis Allen, rookie from last year, flashed, saw some good things when Tyler Higbee was gone. Hunter Long, we really haven't seen. They got him in that trade, obviously, from the Dolphins for Jalen Ramsey, but we haven't seen like much of anything, just due to injury and due to not being able to get on the field. So they have some other young guys they brought in. So to me, it feels like it'd be hard for them to keep 4 tight ends. I feel like 3 is probably the number. They could do 4, certainly. We'll see more as stuff unfolds, but to me, Hunter Long is like that bubble tight end right now.
Yeah, that seems right to me as well. Davis Allen got hurt last year, didn't he?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Banged up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, beside the point, I was just trying to refresh my memory. As you all know, it's not always the best, but Yeah, it's an interesting position. They doubled down with Tyler Higbee with a extension, a 3-year extension, I believe it was, and you know, as everything in this offense has shifted over the last year and this year.
And real quick, not to
Yeah.
cut you off, just so no one yells at us. Yeah, Allen was injured at the end of training camp, and then came back later. So
Okay. Excellent.
there we go.
Higbee's coming off injury. He's probably going to miss the first few weeks. Colby Parkinson is much more of that blocking kind of tight end, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I'm curious if this is a play towards shifting toward a different tight end.
Yeah.
They
This is
they
where Bobby Sco needs to find his salt. This is it.
oh, there we go.
TE3.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting there. Throw him in the mix at that position. That changes a little calculus for me at the moment. Yeah, so my biggest curiosity is exactly how they plan on using tight ends. Is it going to shift like the rest of the offense has shifted? Logic would point towards if everything's moving, this is going to move and shift as well. But that 3-year Tyler Higbee extension is strange if that's the case, because if they're trying to move toward a purely inline blocker, a run blocking kind of guy, that Tyler Higbee is a good blocker, but he's kind of a dual threat kind of a guy in that way, blocking and catching.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like your true do-it-all tight end, which is why he stuck around with the Rams for so long on the extension. So, yeah, that'll be another fun. It was an interesting position last year to look at as a camp battle. It'll be another one, this one in this summer workouts and stuff. So, all right, round us out. Last bubble player you look at. I have a guess where you're going, but let's see.
What do you guess?
I'm not going to guess. Just
okay. The big question for me is depth behind Ernest Jones or alongside Ernest Jones, depending on which package you're running. Christian Roseboom, Troy Reeder have always felt like kind of like guys they like.
Yeah.
Christian Roseboom as an athlete has become he's grown as an athlete specifically over the last few years, getting much more nimble, much more explosive, which you don't a lot of times see. But Troy Reeder at one point was the starting linebacker for this team, and he's kind of fallen off the back end. And they didn't draft anybody. Omar Spates, my guy, as a UDFA is kind of coming in there. So it's hard to say that there's any bubble to play here. But it's an interesting one to watch regardless. But I'm going to pivot away from that one entirely. And I'm going to go with what's going on behind Byron Young. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
So, Michael Hoyt, starter last season, bumped down. Nick Hampton and O'Shawn Mathis, rookies from last season, didn't play. I think there were some injuries going on with them as well. They're bringing in Brennan Jackson as well. That's, again, you're thinking about things shifting. Jared Verse points to a shifting philosophy about their edge rushers. They've always been the long, lanky, tall Leonard Floyd types. Jared Verse is a much more compact and powerful rusher. And Nick Hampton and O'Shawn Mathis fit that older kind of long, lanky guy. And I think you should probably have both. But, pass rush is the most important thing. One of the most important things in football, most important things on defense, I would say. And those guys, on rookie contracts and it's still unknowns, I guess. So
yeah,
that's where I'm going to go on the bubble. I don't know who exactly is on the bubble there, but it'll be interesting to see which of them rises to the top.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, outside of Byron Young, it's wide open for any starter and depth at edge. And And yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see who really rises to the top, and hopefully, hopefully someone does rise to the top, and it's not just out of necessity, kind of like, no disrespect, but like Michael Hoyt's had to be in the last couple of years, where it's just like, well, we don't got anyone else, so he's improved every game, which has been so fun to see. But the reason he was there really is because, well, you're kind of our only options. So let's make it happen. Just and with, I'll throw one more out because I think that's worth noting. I'm curious what's going to happen with Trey Tomlinson in the secondary. Drafted just last year in the 6th round. It was seen as an absolute steal. Former, what was it, the Jim Thorpe Award winner?
Yeah.
At TCU? Yeah. So tremendous collegiate career at TCU, and was just seen as a great pick. And unfortunately, due to his little bit of his size, but more so because of his aggressive play that you can kind of get away with in college that you get flagged for in the NFL, wasn't able to see the field much. And so I think he certainly has the talent, but when you look at the defensive backfield, and I'm talking corners, safeties, nickels, the whole DB room, there's 18 guys right now. Typically you keep 10, maybe 12. I mean, that's typically the room. And so 6 to 8 of these guys are not making this roster. And right now, I mean, it's, there's a lot to be said, and some of these guys are rookies, obviously, but right now he's in that 12, 13 range if you lump all DBs together. And so he has a real bubble shot. I know, fan favorite, is a great pick. I love the pick. We love the pick to get him in the 6th round, but we just didn't see anything in his rookie year that stood out, unfortunately. And so, again, not saying he will get cut or can't, but he's a guy that's going to have a really good offseason to show this defense and Aubrey Pleasant and Chris Shula that he can be an impactful player, because there's 18 guys to choose from. I mean, it's not like a room of 13 where you're like, all right, there's gonna be 2 or 3 guys gone. Like 6 to 8 guys are not going to be here come week 1. And so hopefully he's not one of them.
Yeah. And, I've been talking about the shift in philosophies. There's a shift in the philosophy in the defensive backfield as well. We saw them act very swiftly and heavily towards adding veterans, but veterans of a specific type, bigger dudes, guys that are more willing to hit and get their mugs in the running game and that sort of thing. And it's one thing when you have Kobe Durant and Darian Kendrick as your top cornerback options, but they've added Darius Williams, Cam Curl, Tre'Davious White. Quentin Lake is an interesting guy he was kind of a Swiss Army knife last year.
Yeah.
And so you start to go down this list and you start to think, like, where does he fit in? Who's he going to supplant? Kobe Durant was definitely, quality starter. You got to keep him on. So yeah, you're absolutely right. He didn't earn starting reps over Darian Kendrick through all of Darian Kendrick's struggles last season. He wasn't put in there, and that says a lot.
Yeah.
So it's, he's only on his 2nd year, so I'm sure they're going to keep him around to see a little bit. But if this new coaching regime is like, Trey Tomlinson is a guy of the past, he's not someone we're interested in, he's not going to get a lot of playing time.
Yeah, exactly. And he would obviously, if it does happen, he'll be for sure, I think, practice squad ad as they can continue to develop him, hopefully. But, it's way too early right now. It's May. That's the point of this. Way too early roster bubble predictions. So we will see what happens. Let us know what you guys think, either in the comments if you're on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, Rams LAFB is the YouTube channel. Please hit that like and subscribe button. You can hit us up on Twitter at Ryan Dyer at LAFB, at RL Anderson LAFB, or at LAFB Network is the main account. Or drop us a note on the website, LAFBnetwork.com. Curious what you guys think. If we missed anyone, if you don't agree with them, if you think we knocked out of the park, whatever it may be, or you just want to talk some Rams football, we always love the interaction and love all you guys hanging out. So thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Rams Skinny. It's been fun. We'll be back later in the week. Hopefully, as of now, the schedule is supposed to release on Thursday. I'm hearing murmurs it may get pushed to next week. But if that does not happen, we will be back Thursday night or Friday morning, recapping the schedule, talking our favorite games to look forward to for the 2024 season. So thank you all for Skinny Tea. I'm Ryan Dyer. Everyone have a blessed couple days. We'll talk to you at the end of the week. Peace.